Good evening and salutations, my YNR fans. Uh, let's start off with Ashlyn and Victoria. I gotta sit there and say that I really love this scene because what Ashlyn does is he tests Victoria. He starts saying that, I have second thoughts about this. I don't want this, me planting evidence on Adam to ruin our relationship, to ruin our love. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And worst of all, I don't want to sit there and compromise you. So he starts off with that. And then he asks a question of, um, you weren't willing to sit there and compromise yourself the last time. I guess they were planning on doing something else. But Victoria was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." Whatever it was, he was like, you weren't down about that life before. What makes this so differently? What makes it so different? And she gave the best answer that she could. It got to a point where it almost seemed like Victoria was begging him to continue this plan. And then at the end of it, he starts talking about his love and how sincere he is. And when he leaves the room, you can tell right then and there that Victoria is having doubts about this whole thing once again. Right then and there, when he left, I felt like he had maybe two objectives. One was to test her, two was to try to flip her. And either one of those scenarios, it would work out for him. And you can tell by the end of this episode that she is torn. You know, and she tells Nikki, this is the first time that I've heard, this level of sincerity in his voice. On top of the fact that, he started doing this whole I'm weak or whatever, because of, cancer and everything like that. And she really felt that, she really felt for him. And Victoria and Nikki is looking at Victoria like, man, you're not buying this, are you? And when the family gets together, Nick gets there, um, and Victor gets there, you know, Victoria is like, yeah, he doesn't want me to sit there and compromise myself. I don't, as far as going down a rabbit hole that would compromise me and my integrity, whatever, as far as framing that. And how even Nick was like, well, damn, I normally don't like this guy, but I gotta admit, we on the same page about that. And Nikki asked a question of, do you still have any love for him? Are you still in love with him? Is there a part of you that still loves him? The fact that she doesn't give a clear answer right then and there already told, can already sit there and tell us everything that we need to know. As far as her emotional state, as far as is she about this whole plan. And on top of that, let's talk about Adam for a minute because I'm gonna be honest. Adam actually managed to impress me. He starts talking about all the flaws and everything that can go wrong with this whole plan of Victoria's. And the main thing is that Adam's like the giant, on top of many different details that have to go, that have to sit there and connect to make this whole plan work, we're counting on him framing me. And for all we know, the fact that I gave him access to my computer and he was going in there and searching around or whatever, he can already know right now. He can already be sitting there planning. He can already be sitting there planning his next move. And Victor's like, well, let him, because it doesn't matter what he does. I'm gonna sit there and we're gonna sit there and stop it one way or the other. I play chess, and this is pretty much my game, and I'm very good at it. I was like, really, Victor, really? You want to sit there and start boasting at this stage of the game? You want to start boasting about how good you are at chess? Are you? Are you really good at chess, or do you just think you like to say that to make yourself sound important? Because well, everyone can sit there and call him the great Victor Newman. This guy has managed to infiltrate himself into your family, into your company when you had red flags going off like there was no tomorrow. There was a point where you lost control of the situation with Michael Baldwin, trying to wait for trying to wait on getting evidence. And you didn't even actually have the evidence yet, and yet you sat there and you boasted to Ashland about how we're going to sit there and take you down with no evidence. No evidence whatsoever. So I don't understand. How is this man sitting there acting like like he's still in his position where it's in his control? I don't know if that's delusion or just a sense of him being scared of him not looking weak. I don't know what that is, but even Adam's just like, bro, I just told you how everything can go wrong, and this is okay. So after that, when Sally comes into the room, he's pissed. He's feeling unappreciated. He feels that once everything goes through, he's gonna go back to his job and be a good little boy. And he tells him even he tells before Sally comes into the room, he tells Victor like, "Yo, listen, how many hoops I have to jump through to sit there and try to prove my worth in this family." Now, while this is going on, he does. Well, on one hand, he isn't there venting to Sally. On the other hand, comes across as whiny. And Sally, out of all people, which I listen on B&B, she had she done some very questionable things. Questionable things that I would sit there and say, don't be a Sally. Um, I will get into that. Don't be a Sally. At another time, but in a very near future because I want to kind of concentrate on this. Um, but anyway, Sally's like, yo, listen. At the end of the day, you should be fortunate that you have you're in the position that you're in, and even though you made the mistakes that you made, you're still doing better than most people. Where Sally practically had to sit there and work her ass off to sit there and get to this position. Get to a position even when she was in LA working as hard as she did. And you're sitting there, you have the audacity to sit there and whine and complain like a man child? Really? So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, whatever. Anyway, Adam realizes that he is, complaining and stuff like that. And granted, he talks about his son and he wants to then make a good example and yada, yada, yada. But he does realize that Sally's right. And then Sally does kind of backtrack a little bit by being like, well, being a Newman, you got to go through all these hoops and everything. So I understand where you're coming from or something like that. I was like, no, Sally, you were spot on. We're giving him the criticism that you gave him. Oh, no, don't start backtracking now. We're not going backwards. We're not doing that. I know a lot of people like Nick in this show, but I'm gonna be honest. I felt like he did absolutely nothing in this episode. I mean, granted, all he really did was vent to Sharon about Victoria's plan, which she couldn't really get into, but saying that he's not really feeling it. He's not really feeling it, and he's worried about his sister. He's worried about Adam playing his part, and he's just worried about this whole thing. And in the beginning, they start talking about Tessa and Mariah's wedding, which I'm just like, it's just one of those things where it's like they're talking about the fact that it's Friday the 13th and it's going to be very unconventional. And Nick is like, yeah, well, I kind of seen this as cool or whatever. I was like, no, let's be honest. We're just agreeing to whatever they say because let's be honest. If we don't agree to anything that they say, they're going to sit there and whine and say that we're not being supportive. So, of course, Nick is going to just go along with that. Um, so anyway, they talk about the wedding for a little bit, and then they talk about well, Victoria stuff. And then Ashton comes in and niggas like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave. So when Ashton's like, all right, hi, niggas like, yeah, Sharon, I'll see you later. Now Sharon, for the most part, gives him the cold shoulder, they're saying that, I went through this and this is real, and the fact that you are lying about cancer is just disgusting on so many levels. Ashton's like, well, I'm gonna prove myself, and he gets his cup of coffee, which is debatable if it's cold or not. Um, but even Sharon's like, well, you can go somewhere else, and I'm like, yeah, you can. Why the hell are you still here for? Like, why are you still here for? I don't understand that. Anyway, he stays, and at some point, Adam shows up with Sally, and Adam's like, all right, I'm gonna make you an offer. This is after um Ashlyn talks down to him like usual, belittles him. Oh, you're just temporary CEO. Don't let it go to your head. You're gonna be gone in a flash. His usual bravado. But Adam says, all right, we're gonna give you $5 million to go away. So you're gonna take it or leave it. But at this point, I feel like if Ashland plan works, then he'll take that 500 and just keep making more money. So why is he just going to sit there and settle for 500? We can get 2,500 million, you know? So I don't think that he's actually going to go anywhere. And at this point, I feel like throughout that whole team meeting or whatever, I feel like Adam actually made the most sense, which is I don't want to sit there and say it's surprising because I don't really know that much about Adam, but from what I understand, well, it's just the stuff that I've seen. I don't really know how to feel about Adam. I think that's pretty much where I'm just perplexed about. I don't know how to feel about Adam. I know he's probably done some stuff. He's probably got some stuff done back to him. I mean, I feel like the Newmans in some ways is kind of like the Cassadines, or moreover, the Quartermains. They've all done some dirt to each other at some point in time. So, well, with that being said, I don't really know much about Adam except for the fact that, well, he actually made sense today. He made sense today. Also, I feel like this throughout the three soap operas that I've seen today, this was actually probably the best one. This was actually the best one. Um, Days was, I don't know, somewhat filler. Um, B&B is like the usual crap that happens, except for something that happened towards the end. And so Y&R was actually kind of the saving grace. Hmm. I'm just going to sit there and throw out a random question. I know this has nothing to do with today's episode, but I'm still sitting there thinking about Jack. I'm thinking about the two versions of Jack. I'm thinking about the version that was like in the 90s or the 80s where he came across kind of like 007, but also a dick. Versus the Mr. Rogers version that we got today. And I'm just sitting there thinking, how did we go from that version where he's like the way he like practically, act like he didn't care about Diane and was like, oh, well, mustache, took you off my hands or whatever. And I was like, yeah, this guy's a dick. I like this version as opposed to the Mr. Rogers version that we got now. And I'm just wondering, how did we go from that version to this version? I feel like they are somewhat polar opposites. Let me just double check my notes. I feel like that's about it. Yeah, I feel like that's about it for the most part. So, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.